Chris, what are your thoughts about the Hurricanes as we get going into this year?
Man, look, man, last year, 5-7, rough season for the Hurricanes last year. I'm not real big on them again this year. I know they're going to be better. I mean, they almost have to be, right? I think I made this comparison weeks ago about Miami kind of being like my team, Nebraska. It's been a rough few years, right? QB play, though, Tyler Van Dyke, I think he's got a chance to put up some numbers this year, be a decent quarterback, Christian. Like to hear your thoughts on that. I know they're returning some guys. You know, in the ACC, man, there's a few teams. There's a few teams that are pretty top-heavy there, right? We got Clemson. We got Florida State, who we'll touch on here shortly. We got North Carolina, who I'm pretty high on, Mac Brown and Drake May and those guys. But, like, I think Miami can do something this year. Miami is always a relevant name in college football. We all know that. Anybody that follows college football knows Miami's history, especially the last 20, 25 years. They've won quite a few national titles in that time as well. But they've been on that kind of roller coaster that Nebraska's been on, except for we've been down on the bottom for a long time recently. I don't know this year. You know what? If they go 7-5 this year, maybe 8-4 is a really great year this year. I just don't know how much, talent they have on that team compared to some of those top end teams in the ACC.
Yeah, Crypto King says Hurricanes are going to win 8 games this year. We'll see. Like I said, I mean, we're going to see. Here in a couple of minutes, we're going to jump into their season. Their actual record predictions here. So we'll kind of get to that. And I might tend to agree with you. We'll just have to see. Chris, you're absolutely right, though. Mario Cristobal last year, his first season, right, is at his alma mater, went 5-7.
Right.
Reminds me a lot of Mike Norvell at Florida State, right? And Cristobal, he's a highly regarded recruiter, right?
Yeah.
And, he's a pretty solid coach, I would say, really. I mean, what he did at Oregon was pretty good. I think the biggest thing is it's just going to take him some time to get it built up, right? Where I'm concerned about Miami is of their 7 losses last year, Chris, only 2 were within 1 possession. So they were blown out or pretty close to it a lot of games last year, right? I think they're going to be better. And you've kind of touched on Tyler Van Dyke. I mean, last year he put up, almost 1,900 yards, go alongside 10 touchdowns. He only attempted 16 passes over the final 5 weeks of the season because he was, hurt. I mean, so he barely played in a lot of those games and wasn't really himself. What was interesting to me, Alabama wanted him before they went over to, Alabama wanted him, dude. What do you think about that, Chris?
Can you still hear me, Christian?
Yeah, I can still hear you.
Sorry. I had a little bit of an audio issue there. No. What I wanted to interject there is, but Bama wanted him. I mean, they got 2 trash backs back there for quarterbacks right now, dude. Let's be honest. I mean, don't look like you're surprised, dude. They don't got much back there right now. I don't know if you saw that spring game. It was pretty goddamn weak. I'm not saying that's not a knock on on Van Dyke. That's not at all. But I'm a little concerned about Bama, and that's a topic for another day. But I think he had he had an okay year last year. I'll give it that. But you're returning some other guys there. I know they got a couple of the wide receivers back. Like you said, Cristobal can recruit. I think they had a decent recruiting offseason, if I'm not mistaken. I don't have that pulled up right now, but I think they're going to be okay. I don't know 8 games for sure, but I would put them definitely better than 5-7 this year. I could see a 7-5 season, Christian, looking at that schedule off the rip. But I don't know, man. What else you got on Miami? Like, what are you thinking here? Are you thinking this is a breakout year from Van Dyke? Is he cracking your top 10 QBs in college football this season? Is that what you're saying?
Top 10, that's a pretty hefty list to get on there. I think he could be inside the top 25, top 30 quarterbacks in college football. I think that'd be a great I don't want to say stretch, but that's a great aiming point for him. Here's the other side of it, Chris. I mean, he's only a junior this year, man. So if he doesn't have a good year this year, he still has he still has 2 years left, man. I mean, so he can come back and, probably, I think he's still doing the COVID year thing. I don't know. Yeah. But, I mean, he's got some time. I mean, depending if he doesn't transfer or whatever have you. To me, again, I think he's going to have a bounce back year. He's got to stay healthy. They got to protect him. And I think everything will be all right. The good news for Miami is they're going to get running back Henry Parrish back. He's going to try to build upon a 700-yard, 6-touchdown season. and he's going to most likely split reps with. They brought in an uber talented true freshman in Mark Fletcher. So, dude, that's crazy. If you've got a true freshman running back who's going to be splitting some time back there with you, second on the depth chart this early, you know he's going to be good.
Yeah, no, can't disagree with that. That kid, I believe he's a 5-star, if I'm not mistaken. If not, he was a high 4-star. But yeah, big time recruit they landed there, dude. They're going to be able to run the football a little bit. Cristobal is going to run, if I'm not mistaken, he's from Oregon, right? Came from over there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I know they kind of want to run that spread style. And I think they're going to be able to, too, though. The ACC, like I said to me, the ACC is kind of, gotta hate making this comparison, but it's very top heavy, kind of like the Big 12, or not the Big 12, but the Pac 12 this year. There's a few teams up there that are really, really, really good. And then there's like a slew of teams, I think, from 4 to 8 that could really make some noise this year. You know what I mean? And actually, I could say the same about the Big 10 this year. So I think Miami's going to be in that conversation this year. I truly do. I think they're going to have a much improved year. Like you said, Van Dyke is only a junior. I mean, 5-7. I mean, you can't realistically tell me as a fan that went 5-7 last year that you're going to go 11-1 or something. That never happens. So no, Miami this year they're going to be halfway relevant over there. I truly do. They might shock some people. Maybe they knock off somebody this year. We know how it goes, Christian. Preseason rankings don't really mean shit after about week 4. You know what I mean? There's a lot that changes. There's teams out there that we always think that, hey, this team is definitely going to be a shoe-in for the playoff. They end up going like 8-4. I mean, we see it all the time. Like, look at Clemson last year. I mean, they had a really down year. There's teams out there. We see it all the fucking time. So,
yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, the biggest question mark is going to be, I can't really say it's a question mark, but it's who's he going to throw the ball to, man? I mean, tight end Will Mallory, who's their leading receiver last year, he's gone. They do bring back, Colby Young, who's a wide receiver. He had 5 touchdowns for him last year. They bring in tight end Cam McCormick from Oregon, who he had 3 touchdowns last year. And I mean, Cristobal knows him, right? He's pretty familiar with him. Look, I think this is an offense that ranked 86 last year. And again, if Van Dyke stays healthy, I got a good feeling, dude. They're going to do some good things. I have a feeling about this year. Do I think, like you said, that they're going to go 11-1? We'll see here in a bit.
Yeah, I don't think that happens. Like I said, you're a little bit higher on them than I am, and that's okay. I think they'll find some weapons, dude. Miami, that is Florida. That whole fucking state's got kids that can run, dude. We all know that. That's a recruiting hot ground down there, man. I think they've always had talent down there. That's the thing with Miami. When you bring up the Miami Hurricanes, whether it's any year, even a down year, man, they still put guys in the fucking NFL down there, dude. And they're gonna have talent. They always do. It's crazy. I wish Nebraska could pull some of that more up this way, but no, they'll be fine, Christian. They'll be okay this year. I would be really shocked. Would you be shocked if they have like another 5-7 season or a 6-8 year or something like that? Or 6-6, I should say. Sorry.
I don't think it would shock me, honestly. Really? No. I mean, we'll break it down a little bit when we get in the schedule, when we take a look at some things. But I really think it wouldn't shock me. But I think that's where they finish? No. I mean, obviously I don't, but we'll talk on that here in a bit. Okay. For me, the reason why I say that too is, Kevin Steele. It's funny, we were talking about Alabama and Miami, earlier with the Van Dyke thing. Kevin Steele jumped over to Alabama, right? And the Hurricanes finished 65th last year in total defense.
Turnover chain.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's not terrible, but again, for what we're looking for here, if you've got the 86th ranked offense in the country, you got to do something a little better than that. So, I mean, we got to crank that up. They do bring in Lance Guidry to replace him. Last season he was at Marshall. Marshall upset Notre Dame last year, dude. So, I mean, their defense, I think they were ranked 8th in total defense last year.
Really?
If you can believe that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, I'm a stat whore over here. I trust me. I said the same thing when I was looking it up. I was like, Jesus Christ, they ranked 8th. So, and they get back a good portion of their defense, right? I mean, they had to go to the portal to shore up some spots too. I mean, they're trying to get back linebackers and corners. I think for me, it's watching that defensive line, in the ACC, I want to see them getting after the quarterback and absolutely wreaking havoc back there. A lot better than what they did last year. The other side of it too, Chris, would it be a stretch to say bringing this guy in, could they finish inside of the top 50 this year in defense.
Yeah, no, I think they could. I mean, Miami's always been known for great defenses, though, dude. Turnover chain, like I brought up earlier. No, I mean, I think they can. It's just in the ACC, and it's all about, what conference you're in, man. I'm really big on what conference you're in. So, like, ACC is going to be able – they got some teams out there that can put up some points, right? Clemson should be a lot better this year. Florida State, as we mentioned, UNC, some of those teams. Yeah, they're going to have to play some fucking defense over there, and I think Miami can. I say this again. One thing I'm sure we've gotten a lot of flack on some Florida people this year, Christian. You know that, especially you. Man, they got some kids down there that can play, though, dude. Those high schools are crazy, man. They got a lot of talent down there. And that's where I always think about Miami. I don't ever put them ever at the bottom just because I know they're going to have talent there. It usually comes down to coaching. And that's a big thing. If Cristobal can get these guys in line, it's going to be his second year. I think that personally, I like Cristobal. I think he's a damn good recruiter. I think he's a damn good coach. I really, truly do. And I know he comes from Oregon. Well, I'm not always the fondest of as a school, but I think they're going to be okay this year. And I think they do definitely have, like I keep saying, they're going to have a better than a 5-7 season this year. It would shock me if they go 5-7 again. I'll put that on record.
Well, you brought it up. Let's take a look at it, man. Let's jump into the records here, Chris. I mean, what do you got for your record prediction for them?
Christian, you pull that up on the screen. I'm having a little bit. There we go. That's what I wanted. I'll run through this real quick. Miami, Ohio, that's a dub. Texas A&M is a question mark for me. Bethune-Cookman, win. Temple, win. Georgia Tech, I think, is still a tough team, even though they don't have Jeff Sims there anymore. North Carolina's lost. Clemson. There's your two teams right there that I think, and I'm very, very high on both those two teams. Virginia, NC State, man, those I think Miami beats both of those. Florida State, who we'll touch on here shortly, Christian's favorite team in the ACC by far, and Louisville, Boston College. No, I actually think Miami goes 8-4. I'll put it right out there. I don't see them beating a Florida State, a Clemson, or a North Carolina. Christian, I'd like to hear your thoughts. A&M, I think just has got to be better than what they were last year. Otherwise, what's his bucket don't have a job anymore. Your boy over there from Florida State. So don't even. All right, I already touched. I know I already got you pissed off, and I love it. What go ahead there. You got a stocking hat on. It's 90 fucking degrees outside here in Nebraska. What the hell is wrong with you?
But, in honor of us doing this whole Florida theme here, it's relatively cold in the Midwest compared to Florida. So that's why the stocking cap is out today. Listen, you fucking pink-titted elephant. I'm going to tell you right now. I'm going to tell you something right now. And that is, we don't talk, when we give these record predictions, we don't confer with one another and say, hey, what do you think they're going to do? So we're going into this blind here. I actually have them going 8-4 too. So
all that for that?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I mean, listen, I think the losses, to me, looking at it here, North Carolina, Florida State, Louisville, and I think they're going to have a surprise loss.
You think they roll A&M?
Say that again?
You think they roll right over A&M? Second game of the year?
I think they do.
Jimbo Fisher is going to fuck it. I mean, dude, let's be honest. We need to touch on that team, by the way. That actually brings up a good point because I got a lot to say about him and that fucking A&M squad last year. What a letdown with that number one recruiting class. But you really think they just walk right through there?
I don't know if they walked through there, but I mean, as bad as A&M looked last year on offense, I mean, and they were really young last year. A&M's going to be much better this year. I just think, man,
okay.
Who's A&M's quarterback going to be? That's the biggest question that you got to ask yourself.
100%.
That's the biggest. Every year they have a really talented quarterback, and every year that motherfucker transfers. So I'm just saying, I think Miami's got a good chance to beat them. I'll take them in that game. It sounds crazy. I mean, they should win, but I mean, who knows? Georgia Tech might be better. Georgia Tech made Georgia sweat a little bit last year, like in the first quarter.
Yeah,
maybe it was the first half. I think it was somewhat of a close game. Then they, Georgia pulled away and ended up blowing them out. But yeah, I mean, you never know, dude. I think Georgia Tech's going to be better this year. North Carolina, like we said, Clemson will probably. Here's the thing. I think they could upset Clemson, and I think that they will have a couple of surprising losses elsewhere.
you know what? I'll agree to disagree with your fucking statement. There's too much hot air going in that fucking head of yours with that stocking cap on. Whatever. I mean, I don't know. Miami's tough to predict this year. I really truly think that, kind of just because like there's a lot of unknowns with them right now. They do bring the quarterback back, as we talked about and touched on a bazillion times here in the last couple minutes, but like I think that they're going to be fine. I just don't see them going 5-7 again. I could see a 7-5, 8-4 year again, Christian. I mean, you could pick your losses in there, man. And yeah, there's going to be some upsets. You know, it's going to happen. Miami might be Clemson, right? Or they might knock off a UNC and Drake May and those guys and shock a few people. Miami's pretty good at doing that once in a while too, though. So, like I said, it's not because of lack of talent. Miami puts out a lot of fucking talent there, dude. I keep saying that, but they do every year. There's always guys in the fucking NFL from Miami. So if they can, and that all to me shows me whether or not, tells me, I guess I should say, can you coach those guys? You know, we said that about Nebraska in the past too. Nebraska does put some decent NFL players out, but they end up being a hell of a lot better in the NFL than they do at Nebraska because I think a lot of that is coaching. I stick by that a lot. So I don't have to say that about your team, Georgia. We all know that the Philadelphia Bulldogs are pretty much your new team. So I get it. It is what it is. I'll leave it at that.
Man, listen, I'm just saying, dude, we both said 8-4. How we get there, you know, you can't mess with how the corn's cooked.
Jesus, whatever. Fucking idiot. All right. So